The text message arrived, cold and dismissive. It was from a friend, casually canceling plans, almost a throwaway line, yet it landed like a physical blow. Emma felt the familiar sting of rejection, quickly followed by a rush to appease, to apologize, even though she'd done nothing wrong. She immediately drafted a reply, bending over backward to assure them it was totally fine, offering alternative dates, desperate to smooth over the perceived slight. This profound desire for acceptance, this constant yearning for approval from others, can warp our sense of self, turning us into chameleons, perpetually adapting to fit into someone else's mold. It's a silent, relentless drive to belong, often at the cost of our own authenticity. This deep-seated need echoes through the millennia of human history, a bond forged in mutual reliance, embodied in the most loyal of companions. Imagine the domestic dog, its tail wagging with boundless enthusiasm, its eyes fixed on its human, constantly seeking a pat, a kind word, a reassuring glance. It performs tricks, fetches, and offers unwavering affection, driven by an inherent need to please, to be part of the pack, to be loved. Even when scolded or neglected, its loyalty often remains steadfast, its capacity for forgiveness seemingly endless. But what happens when the human desire for acceptance becomes an all-consuming hunger? When loyalty turns into self-erasure, and when our self-worth is entirely dependent on the fleeting opinions of others? Can we ever truly find belonging when we've forgotten how to belong to ourselves? Mark nodded, a strained smile plastered on his face, agreeing to another late-night project for a colleague, even though his own workload was crushing him. Later, he spent hours listening to a friend vent about trivial issues, offering endless sympathy, despite feeling completely drained himself. He couldn't say no, couldn't voice his own needs, couldn't risk the slightest hint of disapproval. This pervasive people-pleasing wasn't generosity. It was a deep-seated fear of rejection, a desperate need to be seen as good, helpful, liked. He meticulously anticipated others' desires, often sacrificing his own well-being to meet them, leaving him feeling resentful, exhausted, and invisible. He longed for genuine connection, for relationships where his boundaries were respected, but the ingrained habit of prioritizing others' needs over his own kept him trapped in a cycle of self-neglect, perpetually seeking an elusive affirmation. This pervasive people-pleasing, this eager compliance and desire to be seen as good, finds its purest embodiment in the domestic dog's eager affection and constant attempts to please its human companions. Dogs are highly social animals, descended from wolves, but selectively bred over thousands of years for companionship and cooperation. A dog will often greet its owner with a wagging tail, lick faces, bring toys, and quickly learn commands, all driven by an innate desire to gain approval, secure resources, and maintain its place within the pack or family unit. They are highly attuned to human emotions and body language, often mirroring our moods and seeking to alleviate distress in their owners. For the dog, eager affection and a desire to please are fundamental social strategies, ensuring its acceptance and survival within the human household, making it a master of winning hearts through its unwavering devotion. The human experience of people-pleasing directly mirrors the dog's eager affection. In human neurobiology, people-pleasing can be linked to an overactive reward system, seeking dopamine hits from external validation and an amygdala that perceives disapproval as a significant threat. It's often rooted in early childhood experiences where love or acceptance felt conditional, leading to a learned belief that one must earn affection by meeting others' expectations. Psychologically, people-pleasing stems from low self-esteem, a fear of conflict, or a profound need for external validation. Evolutionary psychology suggests that the urge for social conformity and group acceptance was adaptive for our ancestors' survival. However, when it becomes chronic, it leads to burnout, resentment, a lack of authenticity, and an inability to assert personal boundaries, Just as the dog constantly seeks to please its human, a people-pleasing person lives under a constant self-imposed pressure to win others' approval, forever sacrificing their own needs for the sake of perceived harmony. Mark felt the suffocating grip of his own people-pleasing, the internal tug-of-war between his desires and the perceived needs of others. He was confronting the immense personal cost of this tireless pursuit of external validation, the vibrant self it erased and the genuine connections it prevented. Would he continue to live in this cycle of self-sacrifice, perpetually seeking an elusive affirmation that never quite filled the void? Or would he, like a dog, which once it knows it's loved can simply wrest content, dare to set boundaries, to say no, to prioritize his own well-being, risking the temporary discomfort of disapproval for the sake of his own authenticity? His instinct was to accommodate, to agree, to be liked. But the profound exhaustion, the yearning for genuine self-respect, now demanded a different, more courageous choice. He had to acknowledge that his kindness was not just making him helpful, but also slowly eroding him. The domestic dog, as eager affection and constant desire to please, offer a powerful metaphor for the human struggle with people-pleasing. It teaches us that while kindness and cooperation are valuable, an unchecked compulsion to seek external approval can lead to profound self-neglect, resentment, and a diminished sense of self. By understanding the primal drive that compels the dog to constantly seek acceptance, we are invited to confront the origins and costs of our own compulsive need for validation. May we learn from the dog to discern when our generosity is authentic and when it is becoming a self-defeating habit, and to understand that true connection lies not in endlessly pleasing others, but in the courage to honor our own needs and boundaries, fostering relationships built on mutual respect rather than desperate seeking of approval. Sarah felt a familiar pang of anxiety every time her partner left for work, even just for a few hours. When he went on a business trip, she found herself obsessively checking her phone, consumed by the thought, what if he doesn't call? What if he doesn't miss me? What if he finds someone better? This crippling fear of rejection wasn't rational. It was a visceral terror of abandonment, a deep-seated belief that her worth was tied to others' presence and approval. She clung tightly to relationships, often tolerating poor treatment rather than risking being alone, forever performing mental acrobatics to interpret every slight as a sign of impending abandonment. This pervasive anxiety left her feeling constantly insecure, a fragile glass doll on the verge of shattering, perpetually on edge, desperate to avoid the painful void of being unwanted. This crippling fear of rejection, specifically the terror of being left or abandoned, finds its most poignant parallel in the domestic dog separation anxiety. Dogs, especially those with strong attachments to their humans, can exhibit severe distress when left alone. They may bark excessively, destroy furniture, pace, or even injure themselves, all symptoms of a deep-seated panic at the absence of their primary attachment figure. This behavior is not mischievousness. It's a genuine fear of being rejected or abandoned by their pack, their source of safety, food, and companionship. For the dog, the presence of its human means security and belonging. Their absence triggers an ancient primal fear of isolation and vulnerability. Their desperate behaviors are a plea for reassurance, a profound expression of their need for constant presence and validation from their bond. The human experience of fear of rejection directly mirrors the dog's separation anxiety. In human neurobiology, the fear of rejection activates the same brain regions as physical pain, the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex and insula, highlighting its primal intensity. It's often rooted in early attachment wounds or experiences of abandonment, leading to a hypervigilance for signs of disapproval. Psychologically, this fear can manifest as an inability to form secure attachments, a tendency to people please, or a profound lack of self-worth. Evolutionary psychology suggests that rejection from one social group was historically a death sentence for our ancestors. making the fear highly adaptive. However, in modern contexts, it becomes maladaptive, leading to clinginess, insecurity, emotional dependency, and a profound inability to tolerate solitude or disagreement. Just as the dog panics when separated from its human, a person with a fear of rejection lives with a constant, low-grade anxiety, unable to find internal security in their own worth, perpetually seeking external reassurance to validate their existence. Sarah felt the suffocating grip of her own fear of rejection, the visceral panic that surged whenever she felt a distance in her relationships. She was confronting the immense personal cost of this pervasive anxiety, the genuine connections it suffocated with her neediness, and the quiet confidence it denied her. Would she continue to live in this perpetual state of insecurity, forever clinging, forever fearing the inevitable moment of perceived abandonment? Or would she, like a dog that, with consistent reassurance and training, learns to be comfortable alone, dare to build her own sense of self-worth, to find comfort in her own company, risking the discomfort of independence for the sake of genuine security? Her instinct was to cling, to appease, to prevent being left. But the profound loneliness, the yearning for a more secure and authentic connection, now demanded a different, more courageous choice. She had to acknowledge that her love was not just making her connected, but also slowly eroding her. The domestic dog, as separation anxiety and its primal fear of being abandoned, offer a powerful metaphor for the human struggle with fear of rejection. It teaches us that while connection is vital, an unchecked terror of abandonment can lead to profound insecurity, emotional dependency, and an inability to form truly healthy, independent relationships. By understanding the primal need that drives the dog's distress at separation, we are invited to confront the origins and costs of our own deep-seated fears of being unwanted. May we learn from the dog to discern when our need for connection is healthy and when it is becoming a crippling anxiety, and to understand that true security lies not in constantly clinging to others, but in the courage to cultivate self-worth and inner resilience, trusting in our own intrinsic value, regardless of external presence or approval. Liam often found himself apologizing unnecessarily, even for things outside his control. He rarely offered his opinions in group discussions, always deferring to others, convinced that his thoughts were valuable. When praised, he'd deflect, attributing success to luck or others' efforts. This pervasive low self-esteem wasn't humility. It was a deeply ingrained belief in his own inadequacy, a constant internal voice telling him he wasn't good enough. He longed for confidence, for the ability to assert himself, but the fear of being seen as arrogant or, worse, being exposed as a fraud kept him small, perpetually seeking reassurance, yet never truly believing it. This pervasive lack of self-worth left him feeling like a shadow, unable to fully occupy his own space, always yielding to others, perpetually shrinking from his own potential. This pervasive low self-esteem, characterized by a tendency to yield and defer, finds its compelling parallel in the domestic dog's submissive behavior. Dogs, particularly when interacting with higher-ranking members of their pack or humans they perceive as dominant, will display a range of submissive cues, lowering their head, averting their gaze, crouching, rolling onto their backs, or even urinating slightly. These behaviors are not signs of weakness, but are crucial for maintaining social harmony and avoiding conflict within the pack structure. A dog displaying submissive behavior is communicating its non-threatening intent, its willingness to defer to authority, and its desire to remain part of the group. For the dog, submission is a way to gain acceptance and avoid aggression from perceived superiors, a strategy for survival and belonging within a hierarchical system. The human experience of low self-esteem directly mirrors the dog's submissive behavior. In human neurobiology, low self-esteem is often associated with dysregulation in the prefrontal cortex involved in self-perception and the limbic system, leading to heightened sensitivity to negative feedback. It can stem from critical upbringing, negative social comparisons, or a lack of positive reinforcement. Psychologically, low self-esteem manifests as self-doubt, a fear of failure, and an excessive need for external validation. Evolutionary psychology suggests that a degree of humility and an ability to defer to elders or leaders was adaptive for group cohesion and safety. However, when it becomes chronic, it leads to passivity, a fear of asserting boundaries, and a profound inability to recognize one's own worth, often attracting unhealthy dynamics. Just as the dog displays submission to avoid conflict and gain acceptance, a person with low self-esteem perpetually minimizes themselves, always yielding, unable to truly stand in their own power or voice their true self. Liam felt the suffocating grip of his own low self-esteem, the constant internal voice that whispered his inadequacy. He was confronting the immense personal cost of this pervasive belief, the opportunities it cost him, and the authentic self it suppressed. When he continued to live in this state of self-minimization, forever deferring, forever seeking an elusive validation that never truly convinced him of his worth. Or would he, like a dog that once comfortable in its pack, can assert its needs more confidently, dare to voice his opinions, to set boundaries, to stand in his own power, even if it meant risking disapproval or perceived arrogance? His instinct was to defer, to avoid conflict, to stay small. But the profound frustration, the yearning for genuine self-respect, now demanded a different, more courageous choice. He had to acknowledge that his humility was not just protecting him, but also slowly eroding him. The domestic dog's submissive behavior and its innate tendency to defer offer a powerful metaphor for the human struggle with low self-esteem. It teaches us that while humility and respect for others are valuable, an unchecked belief in one's own inadequacy can lead to profound self-erasure, a fear of asserting oneself, and a diminished capacity for true self-worth. By understanding the primal drive that compels the dog to display submission, we are invited to confront the origins and costs of our own internal self-devaluation. May we learn from the dog to discern when our deference is respectful and when it is becoming a self-defeating pattern, and to understand that true power lies not in perpetual submission, but in the courage to recognize and assert our inherent worth, finding our place not by shrinking, but by confidently occupying our own space in the world. Chloe's parents called, demanding her help with a sudden, non-urgent task, knowing she'd drop everything to assist them, even though it meant canceling her own long-awaited plans. Her friends frequently leaned on her for emotional support, taking more than they gave. Yet Chloe always listened, always helped, always put their needs first. This pervasive self-sacrifice wasn't healthy generosity. It was a deeply ingrained pattern of prioritizing others' well-being over her own, a desperate attempt to earn love and secure her place in their lives. She rationalized it as being a good person, but inside, a quiet resentment simmered. She longed for reciprocity, for others to care for her as much as she cared for them. But the ingrained habit of self-neglect left her feeling depleted, unappreciated, and increasingly invisible. This pervasive self-sacrifice, this unwavering willingness to prioritize others' needs, finds its most profound parallel in the domestic dog's undying devotion. Dogs are renowned for their incredible loyalty and self-sacrificing nature towards their human companions. They will protect their families, offer comfort without question, and often put themselves in harm's way for their owners, even when facing danger. Stories abound of dogs waiting years for their owners to return, or remaining by their side through illness and hardship. This undying devotion is a fundamental aspect of their domesticated nature, a profound instinct to serve and protect their pack leader or family, often without regard for their own comfort or safety. For the dog, self-sacrifice is the ultimate expression of loyalty and belonging, driven by a deep, innate bond that overrides personal well-being. The human experience of self-sacrifice directly mirrors the dog's undying devotion. In human neurobiology, chronic self-sacrifice can lead to the depletion of emotional and physical resources, impacting the vagus nerve involved in compassion fatigue and increasing chronic stress. It's often rooted in a desire to feel needed, a fear of abandonment, or a learned pattern from childhood where one was rewarded for self-neglect. Psychologically, excessive self-sacrifice stems from low self-worth, a blurred sense of boundaries, or a belief that one must earn love and belonging. Evolutionary psychology suggests that altruism and group cooperation were vital for human survival. However, when it becomes extreme, it leads to burnout, resentment, a lack of personal identity, and an inability to receive love and support. Just as the dog offers unwavering devotion, a person engaged in excessive self-sacrifice constantly gives more than they receive, leading to a profound sense of depletion and an unacknowledged longing for reciprocity. Chloe felt the quiet resentment festering beneath her outward helpfulness, the bitter truth of her own self-neglect. She was confronting the immense personal cost of this pervasive self-sacrifice, the way it drained her energy and prevented her from receiving the care she deserved. Would she continue to live in this pattern of unending giving, perpetually prioritizing others' needs until she had nothing left? Or would she, like a well-cared-for dog that knows its needs will be met, dare to set boundaries, to say no when necessary, to ask for what she needed, risking the discomfort of others' potential disappointment for the sake of her own well-being? Her instinct was to give, to serve, to be indispensable. But the profound exhaustion, the yearning for genuine reciprocity, now demanded a different, more courageous choice. She had to acknowledge that her loyalty was not just helping others, but also slowly eroding her. The domestic dog's undying devotion and its instinct for self-sacrifice offer a powerful metaphor for the human struggle with excessive self-sacrifice. It teaches us that while generosity and loyalty are noble, an unchecked compulsion to always put others first can lead to profound depletion, resentment, and a diminished sense of self. By understanding the primal bond that drives the dog's unwavering commitment, we are invited to confront the origins and costs of our own pattern of self-neglect. May we learn from the dog to discern when our giving is authentic and when it's becoming a self-destructive pattern, and to understand that true connection and lasting love lie not in endless self-sacrifice, but in the courage to value our own needs and worth, creating relationships built on balanced reciprocity and mutual care. David found himself once again making excuses for his friend's hurtful behavior, minimizing their emotional jabs, overlooking their constant unreliability. He felt a deep ache, a sense of being perpetually let down, yet he couldn't bring himself to end the friendship. He told himself, that's just how they are, and continued to show up, to offer support, to be there. This persistent loyalty, despite mistreatment, wasn't a sign of strength. It was a profound inability to let go, a desperate hope that if he just remained faithful, he would eventually earn the respect and love he craved. He longed for healthy, reciprocal relationships, but the ingrained habit of enduring pain for the sake of connection left him feeling perpetually wounded, taken for granted, and unable to protect his own emotional well-being. This persistent loyalty, despite mistreatment, an enduring bond even in the face of harm, finds its most heart-wrenching parallel in the domestic dog's unconditional love and resilience. Dogs are famously forgiving and fiercely loyal. Even dogs rescued from abusive situations often, with time and patience, learn to trust and bond with new humans, demonstrating an astonishing capacity for forgiveness and an unwavering desire for connection. A dog's loyalty to its perceived pack or human family is often unconditional, persisting even through periods of neglect or harsh treatment. Their deep-seated social nature and need for belonging often compel them to stay, to seek reassurance, and to offer affection despite being hurt. For the dog, unconditional loyalty is a fundamental instinct for survival within its social structure, a profound expression of its capacity for attachment that often overrides immediate pain or past trauma, driven by a deep-seated hope for acceptance. The human experience of persistent loyalty despite mistreatment directly mirrors the dog's unconditional love. In human psychology, this pattern can be linked to trauma bonds, a fear of abandonment, or a deep-seated belief that enduring pain will eventually lead to love or validation. It often stems from a lack of secure attachment in early life, leading individuals to tolerate unhealthy dynamics to maintain a connection, however flawed. The reward system can become activated by intermittent reinforcement, occasional kindness amidst mistreatment, making it hard to leave. Evolutionary psychology suggests that group loyalty, even through hardship, was crucial for ancestral survival. However, when it becomes chronic, it leads to self-betrayal, profound emotional pain, a loss of self-respect, and an inability to form truly healthy reciprocal relationships. Just as the dog remains loyal despite mistreatment, a person enduring such a dynamic is perpetually sacrificing their own well-being for the elusive hope of acceptance, often unable to break free from harmful patterns. David felt the profound ache of his unreciprocated loyalty, the quiet despair of being taken for granted. He was confronting the immense personal cost of his persistent enduring of mistreatment, the way it eroded his self-worth and kept him trapped in unsatisfying connections. Would he continue to hold on to relationships that hurt him, forever hoping that his unwavering loyalty would eventually transform the dynamic? Or would he, like a dog that eventually learns to move on to a safe, loving home, dare to recognize his own worth, to set firm boundaries, to walk away from relationships that consistently caused him pain, risking the discomfort of loss for the sake of his own peace and dignity? His instinct was to stay, to fight for the bond, to be loyal. But the profound pain, the yearning for genuine respect, now demanded a different, more courageous choice. He had to acknowledge that his loyalty was not just preserving a connection, but also slowly destroying him. The domestic dog's unconditional love and persistent loyalty, even when hurt, offer a powerful, yet challenging, metaphor for the human struggle with enduring mistreatment for the sake of acceptance. It teaches us that while loyalty and forgiveness are noble traits, an unchecked compulsion to remain in harmful relationships can lead to profound self-betrayal, chronic pain, and an inability to experience true, healthy connection. By understanding the primal bond that drives the dog's unwavering devotion, we are invited to confront the origins and costs of our own patterns of enduring pain for the elusive promise of belonging. May we learn from the dog to discern when our loyalty is healthy and when it is becoming a self-destructive habit, and to understand that true acceptance begins with self-respect, cultivating the courage to release ourselves from relationships that diminish us and choosing connections that honor our inherent worth.